I believe we all selected to be here on Earth at this time, choosing our parents and interacting with various soul groups. In our evolution on this planet, as humans, we evolved from prehistoric man over a period of millions of years. The interesting part of our evolution was within a very short period, a couple 100,000 years, we evolved into what we are today. The leap in evolution man took was a jump in comparison to the 1900s, where man flew the first airplanes, and then traveled to the moon and Mars, all in several decades. Zecharia Sitchin has a series of books that delve deep into the subject of our evolution. These scientific and archaeological finds bring about startling new evidence into discovery about our history and evolution. These discoveries allow us to put together the missing pieces that science and religion are unable to. The reason I believe Zechariah's discoveries are so valuable is if we truly understand our origin, then we can better understand how we arrived at where we are as a race now. Science has already determined that we are all linked in some way, all being made up of one universal substance. The Earth, our planets, and our universe all have their own evolutionary cycle. It has been proven that the Earth has recently been increasing its vibratory rate. The Earth has its own vibration and cycles that can only recently be measured. This rate is called the Schumann resonance, named after the scientist who discovered this. The vibration rate of the Earth has been rapidly increasing. Some say this is the stage where the Earth is progressing to its next level in evolution. The Mayans claimed this would happen by or sometime during the year 2012, as this is when their calendar was said to end. We recently have discovered another universe. If we have only recently discovered another universe, then how many others exist that are yet undiscovered by us? Stars we know have a life and evolution of their own. Some stars we see have already exploded yet appear the same in the sky to us. The spiritualists saw our group consciousness has recently changed from a negative vibration to a positive one over the last 15 years. I have felt a cosmic change in the universal mind of the people living on our planet. More people have become spiritually aware, and the information age has opened a new door for virtually everyone. Previously, information and knowledge was only available to the elite, is now able to be accessed by almost everyone. With knowledge comes power, or the ability to act on that knowledge. We create the world we live in through thought. It is that very thought which creates an idea, then taking action to implement those ideas, allowing them to come into creation. There is a theory that what is called soul groups reincarnate together. These are people we encounter in our everyday lives. We are said to be working out karma and soul contracts together. We are teaching each other lessons, both positive and negative. Most of us grow during times of stress. There is an old saying that which does not kill us only makes us stronger. There is a story about a spiritual advisor to a king. This advisor had a saying that everything that happened, the universal higher power was allowing it to happen, and it was for the best. The other advisors were jealous and devised a plan to set up the spiritual advisor. One day, while the king was having his nails cut, he fell asleep. The nail cutter accidentally cut part of the king's finger. The spiritual advisor was informed by the other advisors about the king's finger. The spiritual advisor said it must have happened for a reason, and it was for the best. Upon hearing this, the advisors immediately went to the king, telling him the spiritual advisor's response. The king, outraged, said, "Find the spiritual advisor and lock him up in the jail." A week later, the king was out for a ride and came across some bandits searching for an important person that was perfect for a sacrifice to their god. The king was taken hostage and brought to their mountain hideout to be sacrificed. Once there, the king was inspected before he was to be sacrificed. They discovered his disfigured finger and decided he was not a perfect sacrifice. Once released, the king returned home and called for his spiritual advisor. The king now realized why it was best that he had lost part of his finger, as it had saved his life. He asked the spiritual advisor how was it best that he was locked up for a week eating crumbs and drinking only water. The spiritual advisor responded, "Sire, if I was not in jail, I would have been riding with Yor, and they would have sacrificed me. You see, Your Majesty, sometimes although we are not aware of the reasons immediately everything is for the best. Like in this wise fable, when we are experiencing dark times it is only a matter of time before we see the light. We touch everyone's life when we come in contact with them. Even our thoughts have been proven to affect our surroundings, environment, and lives around us. This has been scientifically proven. In a laboratory test, scientists wanted to know the effects a group of people could have on a sick animal about to die. The experiment was to give each person a specific thought as to whether the animal would die or become healthy. When the group was asked to focus their thoughts on a rat with terminal cancer surviving, there was an 80% rate of survival. The opposite effect would happen when everyone in the study was told the animals were going to die. The study was successful in proving our thoughts have energy and affect others positively or negatively. In a separate study, a man entered a flower garden with a weed whacker. The scientists used a recording device that could pick up the sound or frequency the flowers were emanating. The initial sound was of a low hum. Once the man began to cut flowers, the sound changed to a high pitch, almost as if the flowers were screaming in unison as they were cut. The scientists came back a week later and entered the garden to find the same low-pitch hum. Once the weed whacker began to cut the flowers, the sound changed to a high-pitched scream again. The next part of the study proved most interesting. A week later the man returned, and once the man entered the garden, the sound changed before he even turned the weed whacker on. This proved not only did their flowers have a sensitivity as to what happened to them, they also had memory to recall the man and knew they were in danger. There is a saying by Swetaswatara Upanishad, the one Godhead secret in all beings, all-pervading, the inner self of all, presiding over the many, who are passive to nature, fashions one seen in many ways. We all come from the one universal source. It does not matter mineral, metal, earth, all life forms, stars and all in existence come from the same universal source, or one seed. In recent archaeological finds dating back on clay tablets found before Abraham's time, give us some insight to the authors of the Old Testament. Who could have personal knowledge of creation, except the Creator? All beliefs are therefore an act of faith. Some believe in the Big Bang Theory, others believe in the Holy Trinity. I believe it is more important to understand our purpose of existence than to spend a lifetime pursuing how the world came into existence. You may answer the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? One person may say the egg, the other the chicken. It does not matter, because it can only be a theory, unless we were there to witness it. A theory is only a person's view on something. Until witnessed or experienced will be or remain a theory. It is important that something does exist. I personally have pursued reading massive amounts of literature, attempting to find my own personal truth. I have come to the theory of the Holy Trinity. I believe in the philosophy that the universal one, in order to get to know itself, separated into two. This is considered the yin and yang by Eastern philosophy. This is considered positive and negative in the Western culture. The Hindu and Christian philosophy consider this the mother and the father. These entities created the third in unison. This is considered the Christ consciousness, or where all other creation stems from. Spiritualists call this the love consciousness. Whether we come from Adam and Eve or some other form of evolution, we are here now. It is sure that we are atoms and we are evolving. It seems that whether it is the earth itself, or a life form existing on this planet, all life is evolving. Even the metals and rocks are evolving. Using metal and rocks as an example of evolution, what are these items striving to be? The answer is they are striving over time to become pure. The reason all rocks are not diamond is, a diamond is pure, 100% free of any impurities. The reason all metal is not gold is due to its impurities. Gold is 100% free of impurities in its highest state. As we are all a part of nature, we also are striving to evolve. Therefore, the same way gold or diamonds have over time become pure, we are evolving to become the same. The key is we must not idly stand by. We were given the gift of free will. We must make a conscious effort to remove all of our impurities, and then we will evolve to our next level in our evolutionary journey. This cleansing comes from us controlling our mind and ego. Most of us are controlled by our mind and ego. We must learn to make our mind and ego be in our service in order for us to continue to evolve. If we are servants to our ego and our mind, we are destined to live in fear and need. An uncontrolled mind and ego leads to a life of unhappiness. Some call achievement of purity, enlightenment, some call it ascension. Let us call the life we are experiencing a soul journey. The soul outlasts the body and is eternal. This sojourn, short for soul journey, is one experience in our evolution. We know through archaeological finds that animals have evolved and some no longer exist. It is possible once the species achieved its maximum potential here on Earth, it moved on in its evolutionary journey. Ancient Egyptians believed we are striving for perfection of the soul in order to continue to evolve. Religions and their basis. As we developed from the animal kingdom, one of the oldest theories of mankind was a belief in higher power. We initially worshipped things such as fire and the sun, even giving them titles such as the sun god, etc. As we continued to evolve in ego, we created philosophies and religions. These were passed on and handed down from one generation to the next. Various parts of the world have separate religions, philosophies on our spirituality. We are born all-knowing at birth and develop into a state of ignorance by being raised by parents, who with rare exceptions pass on their religious beliefs and doctrines. Most parents themselves are confused about the purpose of our lives. Our schools, teacher, parents, friends, family, help mold our mind and ego, yet are living in a state of ignorance of our purpose. If we lead a life of ignorance toward our purpose, we will usually leave this life the same way. When mankind perceives that all religions are all complementary, all with their positive and negatives, until there is no division of religious differences, true brotherhood in religion will not be established. Perfection is love appearing in various forms. This theosophy is known to pay as ancient wisdom and deals with laws that extend beyond science and religion. Through changing our inner self, we are becoming part of a spiritual revelation that will change all aspects of our life. Having a religious belief alone is not enough. Throughout history, one religious sect has been at war. This has the story throughout history and continues today. Christians have been at war with the Muslims, all fueled by a hatred created by ego, all in the name of faith. A faith on all sides, where each faction claims to be the chosen people. Only a universal spirituality of love will unite us into a spiritual harmony. Various spiritual leaders have recognized this and are attempting to bring about spiritual union regardless of a person's religious beliefs. Once we as a race become able to live religion rather than preach it, then and only then will we show the human qualities of goodness, kindness, compassion, and a universal love that is needed for humanity. The reason most people are reading this material is they have experienced a sense of inspiration to achieve a better or a higher state than they are currently living in. The vast majority of us have experienced some sort of religious doctrine in our lives. Most of us have still felt a void or discontentment. Religions have been used to manipulate the masses of each culture for thousands of years. Society is now learning to once again look within. As we change one individual at a time, we will eventually change the institutions of human culture. As we begin to live our spirituality in our daily lives, we can begin rebuilding a community based on a sense of ethics, which has been lost. Once we live as members of the human family, spiritual values become crucial. Baba Muktananda, has stated a simple parable that I believe sums it up very nicely. This world is filled amazing modifications, with various names. All these things are created by the actor of the universe. This entire world is the drama of the self of the universe has become many, it is one. He manifests this entire universe out of his own self-image. Then he plays with himself. So this is God's play. It is his unique drama. It is an enchanting piece of magic, and he does it for his own delight, for his own amusement. He assumes all forms and performs all actions while making this drama happen within him. There is nothing to give up that is different from him. This world is a play of God. Therefore, there is nothing to renounce that is different from him. There is no place to look for him, because there is no place he is not. What is different from you? What do you not have? What can be more or different from you? If there is something else, then where is it? Our past programming contains our beliefs, reactions, likes, dislikes, perceptions we have received from others. We must be freed from this past conditioning to be free to know and live in the truth. In 527 A.D., Emperor Justinian, for his own purposes, wanted to rally his subjects around Christianity. This was the popular religion of the day. He decided to take the Christians' belief and create a modified religion. The Christians of the time believed in reincarnation. The emperor was concerned that his subjects might become lax in their spiritual life if they had more than one life to achieve spiritual perfection. The emperor manipulated the doctrines in an attempt to gain more power and collect more money for the church. It was decided during his reign to eliminate reincarnation from the scriptures in the Christian Bible. The emperor and the dioceses were sure people would donate more to the church, along with increasing their loyalty to the emperor. The elite in and throughout history have been aware of these facts. They felt that this information was best kept among them. The truth is not for the few or elite, it is for everyone. With the internet and year 2000 being called the information age, it is almost impossible for this and other such historical facts to be suppressed. According to Einstein's Physics of Illusion, a lecture delivered by John Dobson at the Vedanta Society, Berkeley. When we talk about the universe, or when we look out and see it, what we see is that the universe is made out of what we call matter. It is what we call a material universe. Albert Einstein, when he was 26 years old, discovered we cannot have an objective universe in 3 dimensions. The vast majority of us have heard of 3D, almost no one discusses 4D. It was when Einstein discovered through our physics that what we had been calling matter or mass is really just energy. The question then is, where do things come from? How does what we call reality manifest itself? St. Paul, who is one of the authors of the New Testament, states, "That which is seen hath not come from that which doth appear." Physicists have determined, particles themselves are not responsible for their own creation. This leaves us with the seen world comes from the world of the unseen. In the famous equation E equals mc2, it says for a particle at rest, its mass is equal to its energy. It is not possible to have a universe of space without a universe of time. For an event to occur, it is the separation between an event and the amount of time in which it occurs to enable a change to occur. We are made up of the same substance or matter as this universal energy. We are a body of energy waiting to be tapped. We as humans exist in a material world in a body, which is in itself a virtual universe. Our body consists of billions of protons and electrons in a constant state of fluctuations or change. We control our body and universe with our mind. Consciously and subconsciously, we are creating and changing our inner and outer universe. We start out as a sperm and egg uniting, becoming a new life form. As these two unite, a new soul has a new vehicle, or a new body is born. We enter various stages of development as we grow. Just as the universe is in a constant state of change, so are we. The question therefore lays in what are we changing toward? What is our purpose of our existence? When Einstein was asked what was the one question he felt was the most important question to have an answer to, he responded, "Is the universe a friendly place?" We know that without space and time, the universal substance must be changeless. Matter itself is energy. If it's beyond time and space, it must be changeless. Example: if it's beyond space, it must be undivided and infinite, because only within space could we have things finite and divided. Without time, you couldn't have any kind of change. So whatever does exist behind or beyond this universe must be infinite and undivided. Now comes the ancient and age-old question: could we have mistaken the changeless for the changing? Could we have mistaken the undivided for the divided? This is the question. Space is not really that which separates the many. It is that which seems to separate the one. Time is not that which we see change, but that which seems to separate the one. Time is not that which we see change, but that in which the changeless seems to change. Therefore the ancient and age-old adage, "As above so is below," reigns true. It has been said that we are all connected in this life. If everything is one, only seeming to change form, what allows believing these changes in substances that change through time and space? An example would be a cracker appearing as a whole Ritz cracker. When smashed, what makes the crumbs is the spaces between the pieces. Without time that it takes, there wouldn't be a change in the whole cracker. The reason there is the separation between the spaces in the cracker takes what we call time. Therefore it takes time and space for a change to occur to the whole cracker. Einstein stated it is impossible to destroy matter, it simply changes form. The same is true from the simple example of our cracker crumbling, or when hydrogen falls together to form galaxies or stars. Beyond our modern-day physics is the question: what is it? We shall call it the universal energy. This energy is undivided and infinite. So when we die in body, if we know we cannot destroy matter, what happens to us? There are various theories. Reincarnation, heaven and hell are some. Either way, we are encountering another stage that more than likely is another stage of our evolution. I believe our perception of our surroundings and circumstances create our heaven or hell, no matter what our state of existence. If we are reincarnating, what is our purpose of our life? If we are not, what is our purpose of this life? Since we know you cannot destroy matter, what is our next step in evolution? Most of us have seen or heard of the movie called The Matrix. The Matrix in real life refers to the invisible grid, which exists connecting everything in our reality. 4D, or for 3 to exist you have length, width and depth. 4D must exist for something to be 3D. The reason is it allows for the factor of time as well as length, width and depth. As we discussed earlier, time must exist to allow separation of the one to occur. The basis of quantum physics uses the example that when a butterfly flaps its wings, it creates a ripple effect that is felt across the world through the matrices, even though it is minuscule. We have recently discovered we are not the only universe that exists. The theory of black holes in our universe swallowing matter, and previously we believed the matter disappeared. Now we are looking for what they call white holes, where they believe the matter reappears. They believe that black holes may just be a gateway to other universes. The concept worked on by Nikola Tesla was zero energy, which is the name he gave to the universal energy source. He believed we could tap this universal energy source. Nikola Tesla was also responsible for our current electrical system. He was also responsible for creating the first wireless transmitter in the late 1800s. He believed we could transmit through the air waves using the electrical field to transmit. 100 years later, we are now using this technology when transmitting telephone, video, and internet via satellite transmissions. We believe the fastest speed was the speed of light. All elements and substances that exist vibrate at a certain rate. We used to believe molecules were held together by a mystery element referred to as the third element. A simple example is H2O, which makes up water. The hydrogen and 2 parts oxygen were thought to be held together by this mystery agent. We know now that all molecules are made up of the one universal substance, just vibrating at a faster or a slower rate. Science is now proving what the ancient philosophers have said all along, that we and all creations come from one universal source, or the one just appearing as the many. It is said the one universal source is light. Harvard has recently proven if someone enters a particular accelerator and increases the speed of the particles toward the speed of light in a human, no disease cells can live in the accelerated cells. Nikola Tesla helped invent the first particle accelerator. In our universe, we have a magnetic field. Our cells operate in a similar fashion to our universe. All cells have a magnetic field, which the protons and electrons revolve around the nucleus. The solar system is revolving in the same fashion as our cells, as above so it below. The holistic health field has used magnets in healing for centuries. Not so long ago the world was believed to be flat. Recently we have discovered pyramid-shaped structures on Mars. If we are not the only life forces in our universe, and we know other universes exist, this leads to the real question: where do we go from here? The ancients say that if we examine past history, there are keys to our future. There are some great books written by Zecharia Sitchin. He is a scientist and archaeologist. He has tracked back our history of the Earth and man through the discovery of various artifacts. I believe it is important to have an understanding of where we come from. I am sure we are in a constant state of evolution. I believe in the universal law of karma. I believe we are capable of guiding our lives by the thoughts we create. Our actions of today determine our destiny of tomorrow. Spiritualists believe that humans fall short in our deviation from a full or pure acceptance of God in us. This brings about death, good and evil, joy and pain, completeness and want, all of these, the fruits or result of a divided being. The soul, however, in its nature, can be allowed to partake of the fruit of the tree of life, while still being divine and live forever. The various states of consciousness include death, which is only a change in immortal life, pain, which is only a change in universal delight, limitation, a change in the infinite, evil, a change in good of its own perfection. The universal consciousness moves around the personal ego and our works. The ego brings judgment through our senses, emotions and conceptions. We assign values or interpretations while human life progresses. As long as we assign values or interpretations of these things the ego interprets, we have not reached the last or highest state of human life. Through the knowledge and action that the trust is the path and not the faucet of living in ego. The truth is that a higher power is the center of existence, and that what human experience is the individual discovering the terms of the universe. This discovery of the self, or one's perfect self, opening to a truth and a law that exceeds its own conventions. This law and opening one's self up to this universal truth shall be our deliverance in this human life. The goal therefore being the abolition of those values, which are creations of our egotistic view of things. The transcendence of limitation, ignorance, death, suffering and evil then become the bridge to enlightenment, or a place other than this material universe. A higher evolution to the original ape of the Darwinian theory would have been almost as difficult for that ape living in primeval forests to conceive that one day on Earth millions of years later, there would exist an animal on Earth that uses a new faculty called reason. This animal would change his circumstances of his or her inner and outer life by building stone houses, sailing seas, riding the air, developing codes of conduct, evolving our mental and spiritual development. This would have been difficult for prehistoric man to have envisioned. This, however, is what over millions of years we have become. This is why for some envisioning a world without ego and a place other than our material world seems so difficult. The dream of utopia, or heaven, really is the fulfillment of one's own perfection. We seem to find the same difficulty in accepting this practical reality now on Earth, as would the ancestral ape, if asked to believe in modern man traveling to the moon and Mars. It may seem like an impossibility to eliminate ego and create a world of eternal bliss, yet, without a vision of the impossible, or an inspiring vision of the possible, is only when all is possible. We can therefore arrive at truth through an elimination of errors. A reporter was doing an article on Thomas Edison. They were asking him how many times he had failed to invent the light bulb. His reply was, "I have almost invented the light bulb 1,200 times. I have never failed to invent the light bulb." We cannot fail unless we do not continue to pursue our dreams or goals. It is difficult for us to envision an absolute realization of happiness because of our ego creating a continuous group of needs, which the ego is unable to ever satisfy all of its ongoing needs. The ego is the apparent source of all our suffering. We constantly seek to minimize the causes of our errors, pain and suffering. Science seeks to regulate birth and prolong life indefinitely, if not affecting the entire conquest of death. Science only views the external or secondary processes. It has yet to view the root cause. Until it realizes the ego is in control of all of our suffering. All science may one day do is prolong our inevitable suffering which we are currently experiencing as a race. Once the truth prevails that the ego is the factor in which determines the reactions of error, pain, evil, death. It gives these values to moments which would otherwise be represented in their right relation to the universal one, being bliss, truth and good. Through our proper alignment with the universal one, only then may we eliminate the ego and all the determined reactions causing all our suffering. Once eliminated, we may enter the next stage in our cosmic movement of our evolution. Katha Upanishad has said, "This secret self in all beings is not apparent, but it is seen by means of the supreme reason, the subtle by those who have the subtle vision." As humans living in a material world, we confine ourselves to a sense evidence and physical conscious world. We can conceive nothing and know nothing except our material world. The exception to the rule is when one experiences a phenomenon that defies our physical senses. The rational ego is incapable of knowing what it is. If we can go beyond accepting only our sensible experiences, then we can enter another stage. One that defies our ego's judgments and limited perspective that we tend to live in. When correcting errors of the sense mind and ego through the use of reason, we are then tapping the most powerful resource developed by man. This is also the same power that has allowed mankind superiority over and among the other terrestrial beings. When we are able to see things as ideas and not facts, every concept tends to be incomplete. Once we experience something that we are not subject to in our normal experience, but sizable by the perception of reason. We understand anger, for example, because at some point we have become angry. The reality for us is in the identity of knowledge by experience and identity. Once we can replace direct knowledge, which are creations of the senses, and replace these creations of ego learning to acknowledge experiences without the aid or our sense organs. An example would be flying in a dream. We are experiencing something in a subconscious state, which would be impossible, or more difficult in an awakened state. An example of something we can try in an awakened state would be weighing an object in your hand. The sense of contact is our starting point. It also requires our sense experience and use of pure reason. It is not our sense of touch which allows us to measure the weight of the object in your hand. It is only our use of the sense of touching the object which allows us to enter into relation with the object. Once we use any of our senses to enter into relationship with an external object, we can become aware of the object's contents. We can become able to receive or perceive the thoughts and feelings of others without the aid from their utterance, gesture, action or facial expressions, which sometimes can be misleading anyway. Have you ever had someone act happy or glad yet know, or experience disbelief because you experienced this phenomenon? By all reason and appearances, we should accept the situation at face value, yet something inside informs you differently. This is exactly what we are discussing. only allowing you to go to another level using this ability. This ability alone does not lead to the ultimate goal, which is striving to understand a state that identifies or gives us knowledge of our own existence. Through the knowledge of self comes the knowledge of the universe. Action is the essence of life. The divine life, living this is the ultimate goal. In order to do this, we must examine or action and master the world of the supercontinents, which is light. Conscious identity is identified in action, and light is the principle. Intuition manifests itself as knowledge emerging and affecting the action and consequences. Between and in these two states, the mind acts as an intermediary, allowing the being to liberate knowledge. Existence, pure, indefinable, infinite, and absolute, is the concept at which we view the universe. There is a fundamental reality behind all movement and formation of our apparent reality. If we examine carefully, we will find that intuition is our first teacher behind our mental operations. These messages from the unknown are the beginning of our journey into higher knowledge. Reason allows us to see the benefits in doing so. Intuition, unlike reason, knows what it knows because it is. The reason is it comes from the source of light. Its advantage allows it to go beyond appearances and opens the door to our self-awareness. We are acting in a state of our waking conscience. Working behind the veil is our intuition, which by its very nature is acting in man. Even though intuition is unable to give us the truth in an ordered and articulated form, which we generally require to assimilate most messages. This is where metaphysical philosophy has begun to make room for experimental science. The ancient question asked by one sage to another was, "What dost thou know?" Not "What does thou think?" This comes from creating or trusting a more perfect intuition, which we all have the power to use. The ancient problem still presents itself today. This problem is logical reasoning cannot judge intuition. Therefore, the solution is developing a more pure or perfect intuition. The ancients' attitude toward the pursuit of truth was that inspired revelation was a superior authority to reason, as it comes directly from the source of light, or our Creator. At the same time, they started from reason and tested the results they achieved. It has been said we believe we are human beings looking for a spiritual experience. However, I believe we are spiritual beings living in a human experience. The spiritual masters have said the path toward spiritual enlightenment only appears complex, so it can address the complexities of the mind and ego. For the mind, it has been said, it is enough to say the essence of divine living is love. Once we are completely balanced and able to live in complete bliss through divine love in ourself, thus reflecting this divine love outward. This is said to be the ultimate fulfillment and the ultimate contentment. This simple process and statements are usually not challenging or complex enough for the mind. Therefore, in our spiritual quest, complex things are explained so the mind can take pride in its new discoveries. True inner freedom is therefore really as simple as an awakening to love. Our lives have become very complicated, and this is all due to our mind. Our ego has succeeded in limiting us. What then do we break free from or become released from? Only our own false idea of ourselves, others, and our attachments, compulsions, addictions, wrong perceptions of the world in general. Once we escape these, we open ourselves up to true inner freedom. Once we are able to have a cosmic perspective, where all points of view are included, we are then able to view the cosmic perspective. This view is all-inclusive, and this perspective goes beyond the mind. The mind has a difficult time assimilating opposites or conflicting points of view. The cosmic perspective needed to achieve freedom requires the ability to grow past our current state of mental rigidity. The key is to love and learning to honor one's inner self. Love yourself is only 2 words. These are probably 2 of the most important words we can live by. Our lives tend to be a reflection of the feelings we have inside ourselves. Our personal life and environment are also projections of the outward from within. As humans, we have a tendency to justify or blame our situation on something or someone on the exterior. Once we take responsibility for our lives and realize our outer conditions and circumstances are only reflections of what lives within. If the mind is negative, things seem to be always going wrong. If the mind is positive, we tend to live in a world which seems fine. The outside world cannot rule us unless we allow our thoughts to affect us in an unhealthy way. If we do not focus on negative thoughts and feelings, we do not have to accept any circumstances as negative. What we experience at every given moment is up to us. The mind governs this for us. We were not born when the body came into this world, and we won't die once the soul leaves the body. Consciousness and awareness have no form. It is not limited by space or distance. It has no boundaries, it is infinite. It permeates the entire universe. The body is akin to a pair of clothing. We are not our clothes. The body is a vehicle we have selected for this particular journey, now on earth. Once the body dies, the soul moves on. The ego says this body is mine, therefore this is happening to me. Once we are able to liberate ourselves from body, mind and emotions, we eliminate the underlying problem that affects everything else. As Shakespeare stated, the world is just a stage, and we are all merely actors on that stage. We create our experiences of imperfection and disharmony through our own belief system. Once we are able to achieve the realization that we are that consciousness, even this person we temporarily seem to be is just part of the play consciousness is participating in. The dichotomy is the apparent difference between inner and outer is just waiting on us to realize the truth. The truth is a self-realization that we are that consciousness. Consciousness is the creator. Consciousness is our higher power. There is nothing that does not originate in consciousness itself. Consciousness is not bound by walls or fences, it is formless. The limitations of space and distance do not apply. It is infinite. To the conscious self or our higher power, the world exists in perfect harmony. The only imperfection and disharmony exists within us as humans. Through our own belief system, we create the experience of disharmony. We create this by investing in these experiences through a set of beliefs brought about through our ego and our mind. To experience oneness with the Absolute is to experience oneness with your higher power. We are responsible for our own pleasure or pain. We are responsible for our own joy or sadness. We create our own good or bad, positive or negative experiences. It is when we realize we are one with the mind, we are able to transcend the individual experience and experience the universal. The mind allows us to create our own personal reality. It is said the highest purpose we all have in this material life on earth is to realize our own self as being a universal self. We already are this, it is just learning to live a life in this recognition. This truth existed long before the founding of any religion. No person, personality, or individual invented it. It is a universal truth and applies to everyone, everywhere, all the time. Once we are able to stand apart from the great illusion of life, we are no longer a slave to our bodies or ego. Ideas, thoughts and desires are what imprisons and affects us adversely. Once we live in or with the great plan of the architect of the universe, we are liberated and free. How do we achieve this process of perfecting ourselves? We achieve this through the elimination, one by one, of the undesirable qualities and pursuing positive qualities. If we cultivate the positive qualities and increase our love vibration, like will attract like. We must learn to reprogram our minds from the outside influences which have shaped our current state. Even very strong people make errors. However, we will achieve our goal as long as we continue to make progress in the right direction. Those of us that have seen the light and head towards it are all struggling toward this goal. We all have hope. Those that don't care or know there is anything to strive toward are unable to strive toward this goal. The ego prevents the use of more than 10% of our brain. To access 100% of our brain, we must access the spirit's information processing system. It requires the ego and spirit working in perfect harmony to allow us to live in both worlds simultaneously. The people of antiquity, Egyptians, Chinese, Hindus, Greeks and Native Americans, have attempted to transmit this knowledge through teachings, as well as ceremonies. The silencing of one's mind in order to observe one's own internal silence allows one to become aware of a higher reality. We seem to be in a giant circle, where it has taken thousands of years for scientists and spiritual seekers to once again view the laws of nature and the divine as reflections of the same truth. The age of Aquarius that we are now in was foretold in the ancient world that this would be the time when the lost or ancient mysteries would be revealed to the common man. This would be the seed of hope for the future of the planet. The season of harvest is now. There is an age-old fable where a master is asked by a student, "How many more lives must I live to reach enlightenment?" The master responds, "Just 2 more." The student in frustration sighs and says, "2 more lives," then goes back to his meditation. The next student comes singing and dancing out of the woods joyfully. He stops and asks the master how many more lives must he live before reaching enlightenment. The master responds, 1,000 more. The student says, joyfully, "Wonderful," and takes off singing and dancing, shortly after he disappears into enlightenment. The moral of the story is we must learn to live in the now in a state of bliss, then we can move on. There are many theories on how to reach a balance or deal with everyday life. The sages are said to be unable to be befriended or have enemies. They choose a life where they separate themselves from the emotional outcome of circumstances. Some monks and spiritualists choose a life of solitude. Aboriginals and Indians have a becoming one with Mother Nature philosophy. We are all subject to coming into this world with a purpose or soul contract. I believe if we focus on things we enjoy or are good at, life takes on new meaning. We have been programmed to go to school or college in order to survive in this materialistic world we have created. People who do not wish to partake in the American dream, as they call it, or the dream of materialism. This materialistic dream is now spreading worldwide, and if we do not participate in it, we are considered an outcast. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Strength of numbers is the delight of the timid. The valiant in spirit glory in fighting alone." In the words of Wayne W. Dyer, if you follow the pack, you are going to end up stepping in a lot of what they left behind. This is a less sophisticated saying with just as profound a meaning. Wayne Dyer became financially successful by saving 1/5 of everything he earned with the intent of living off the interest after 15 years. His family and friends said he was crazy and it couldn't be done. He learned rather than sharing his dreams in the future, he learned to keep his mouth shut and just pursue his dreams. He found the less he shared his visions or dreams, the faster they would manifest. If you are in a mundane job or dislike your current life, even certain parts, rewrite your script to your life. Rather than announcing the changes to your family and friends, just silently act on them. If your job or career is done for the sole purpose of making money, it becomes or is then what they call work. If you select a hobby or something you enjoy spending time doing and figure out a way to earn a living doing so, life changes. Instead of waking up with the attitude of regretting having to go show up somewhere you must to pay the bills, you can now enjoy every day with a newfound joy. If you enjoy your new career or job, then it is no longer just work, you are fulfilling a purpose. In our material world, we are steered away from pursuing our dreams or things we enjoy. It is not the lucky who enjoy their jobs. The people who have manifested their dreams or turned a talent they have into a job or career. The world is our play. As actors or actresses in this grand play of life we live in, we have choices. How our grand play will go and what part we will play on this stage we call Earth. Some will play the victim believing they are stuck in that role. Some will choose a life of bliss. Some will experience a life filled with both. It is not either one's fate. Our destiny is decided by what we choose today and our perception of what occurs. The choices we make today bring the circumstances of tomorrow. If you believe you deserve a life of happiness, then begin creating that life starting right now, today. Even prisoners have learned the only real prison is the one of the mind. We choose heaven or hell, right now on earth. We choose to allow our minds and ego to create our reality. I choose to work on myself daily. I choose to live in a positive world filled with blessing and filled with light, not darkness. I have not always lived like this. Over time I have slowly evolved. I first had to learn to control my thoughts. This was necessary to change all the negative programming I allowed. It was very difficult at first to catch every thought. However, over time it became natural to live in a positive state. This affected my health, family and most importantly my personal quality of life. I have been extremely wealthy, achieved all my goals at a young age, all to no avail. I have learned the hard way the most important things in life are my time, children and my quality of life. I wish you well on your journey and send you love and light. I will end with a phrase I learned at a spiritual community called Dharmanhua. It is one simple word with a strong message. Conti. It means neither hello nor goodbye. It means I am always with you. Much love and light. Your humble servant.